Hey, BookTube, Chelsea's Reads here. What's up? We are another month into 2020. We made it. Over half of the year is done. I don't know if we should be patting ourselves on the back or what. I mean, like, we're here, right? So this month I had done away with our weeklies and I am just doing a full monthly video. So that was interesting. So I ended up going to the library this month and I got quite a bit from the library, so I will be pasting those clips into this video because I recorded my thoughts on the books before I returned them to the library. And there was actually quite a few books I got from the library this month, so be along for that ride. It was a pretty decent month for reading. I got quite a bit done that I'm going to show you here. So with that said, let's get to it, those library books. Right, so I finished these library books a lot faster, and they're due, like, soonish, and I have to go pick up some more library books, and I just not gonna have some time by the time we do the rest of it, so really quick. A Wolf at the Table by Augustin Burroughs. This is a memoir. He most famously wrote Running with Scissors. There he is. So this one is about young Augustin and his relationship with his father. His father is abusive. I only gave this one like 3 stars just because it's been like a long time since I've read Running with Scissors. I do remember really liking it, which is why I wanted to pick this one up. But the writing style I just couldn't get into this time around. It was very choppy. It jumps from timeline to timeline. There is a couple stories about animal abuse in here, and that's just like not cool to me. And obviously it's about an abusive father who is neglectful and awful, and that's never pleasant to read. So if you can stomach this one and you're a fan of Burroughs, then go for it. I did notice a couple of cross-references of things that were talked about in Running with Scissors that I remembered, but it's been like a long time, over 10 years since I've read that, so I'm not quite certain, but like the things with the coins I remember from Running with Scissors, that was mentioned in this one as well. And the other library book was To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This is blown up in popularity, especially due to the Netflix series. It is about 16-year-old Laura Jean. Her sister goes to Scotland for college, and Laura sees this opportunity to become close with her sister's now ex-boyfriend once again. She has written letters to all the boys she's ever loved before, had crushes on, and some mysterious person mails these letters out to these boys. Mortified that Josh got the letter, she grabs one of the other boys, her former best friend Peter, and kisses him, and they pretend to date in order to show that she's over Josh. She's like so embarrassed by it. I only gave this book 1 star because I really hated it. I really don't read a lot of YA contemporary for this reason, but even beyond the stupid plot, the writing was terrible. Laura Jean was very immature, and I just couldn't empathize with her at all. The fact that she was pining after her sister's boyfriend the second that she like leaves the country, I thought was shady. The fact that she's like just super immature, I didn't like at all. And the whole I'm gonna fake date someone because I don't want my crush to know I like him is really dumb. Like, if you like someone, you think you'd want them to know because maybe he likes you back, especially because they had rekindled their friendship. Yeah, so I only got 1 star. That was it for library books, and I'm gonna go to the library right now and get some more. I also read from the library Waiting for Tom Hanks by Carrie Winifred. Carrie Winfrey, just like Oprah. This is an adult contemporary romance. It is about a girl named Annie. She is from Columbus, Ohio. She writes little BuzzFeed articles, but she's also working on a screenplay for a romantic comedy. She's obsessed with romantic comedies because she used to watch it with her mom before her mom passed away. And Carrie's goal is to wait for her Tom Hanks, not the actor, but the idea. She wants the Tom Hanks character that he plays for her romantic interest, to the point she sabotages most of her other romantic prospects. So her best friend, Chloe, is a barista, but not really because they don't like to use that word at that cafe. But her friend Chloe has her own ideas of love and also tries to tell Annie it is ridiculous to wait for a actual rom-com romance because that's fiction, not reality. And Annie thinks Chloe just needs to learn how to love, so actually her screenplay is based on Chloe and Chloe's boss, and Chloe's very uncomfortable when she figures that out at the end of the book. So this movie ends up coming to town to film a rom-com in Ohio, and of course Annie gets the opportunity to work on set, meets this movie star, and she wonders if he is potentially her Tom Hanks. I think I ended up giving this book 2 stars because it's just not my thing. I'm not too big into contemporary. I don't even like rom-coms very much, and I don't remember why I initially wanted to pick this book up. Probably because it referenced Tom Hanks. The entire book was mostly a love letter to rom-coms such as While You Were Sleeping, Sleepless in Seattle. I don't watch rom-coms. What's the other one that they referenced a lot? They referenced The Wedding Singer, but there was another Tom Hanks. You've Got Mail. Is Tom Hanks in that one? Meg Ryan, I don't know. Nora Ephron movies. She really likes that director. It was just very much a fairy tale. Annie was very immature for a woman, a grown woman. And again, I'm not big into rom-coms, I'm big into contemporary romances, and that's like everything in this. I really liked her Uncle Don, who was a nerd, though. And it just said a lot about Annie, who was judging her uncle, and like, as her uncle goes to a convention dressed up as Chewbacca, and she's like, he's never gonna find love like Annie. Shove it. Like, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of this one, so this was only 2 stars. So another library read that I read this month was Hamilton and Peggy by L.M. Eliot, and this book was obviously trying to bank on the popularity of the Hamilton musical, this time focusing on the third and least featured Schuyler sister from the musical. So this book is fairly large. I wasn't too keen on it before I read it, so that's why I chose to get it from the library, and I am glad I did because I only ended up giving this 2 stars. So, and Peggy here. I don't know very much about her. There isn't too many books written by her, so that's what made this one unique. And L.M. Eliot definitely did their research on this. I believe L.M. Eliot's a woman. She is. But she has a fairly large bibliography at the back of this book. However, I think she took a lot of liberties, especially with the other Schuyler sisters. Like, Angelica's headstrong nature is amped up a lot, and then Eliza was reduced to giggling schoolgirl. She was very much portrayed as this immature, kind of lovesick, kind of puppy character, and Peggy is basically a Mary Sue. Maybe that's not the correct term, but Peggy is very intelligent, and she wants to help her father, General Schuyler, in the Revolution by analyzing letters and trying to make military tactics and stuff, but of course, being a woman, or female, like her dad just brushes her aside and she's not taken seriously at all. And that was the majority of the book. She does become friends with Hamilton, especially when he shows an interest in Eliza and asks her to help him court her. So I found this to be pretty boring. It's not really interesting to read about somebody who wants to help but is confined to not helping due to the confines of their gender. So she really didn't have that much interesting of a story to tell, especially because it was stuff that was happening. We would just hear about it secondhand from other characters or from Peggy. We didn't actually see the action happening. What was interesting and what I thought was a nice touch in this book was there were excerpts of real letters from General Washington, from Hamilton, to Peggy, and so forth in these books. So I thought that was a nice touch. Otherwise, if you're a huge Hamilton fan, you might be more interested in it than I was. Otherwise, I would skip this one. Also this month, thanks to the library, I read the entire YuGiOh GX manga series. This manga is 9 volumes and 65 chapters long. I decided just to review the entire series as one instead of doing individuals, mainly because that's, 9 little clips I would have had to record instead of just one. So this month, like I said, I did read this entire series. I had not, before picking this up this month, had any experience with GX, just watching and reading the original YuGiOh series manga and anime. I have started watching the GX anime because I thought I could read and watch simultaneously. Little did I know that the anime and the manga have very little in common. So this series follows Jaden Yuki. He is a duelist at the Duelist Academy. So he's a student there. They are split up into 3 different dorms. The Obelisk Blue dorm is for the more aggressive players. Then the Raw Yellow is the more academic group, and then the Slifer Red are known as the Slifer Slackers. So of course Jaden and his best friend Cyrus are in Slifer Red. However, Jaden proves to be a very strong duelist. With only 9 volumes, you can imagine there wasn't too many plots in this one. It was a lot of dueling with very little plot or character development. He has his best friend Cyrus, who's kind of like a goofy kid, but Cyrus's brother is this really strong duelist, like known as the King of Duels. And then there's their friend Alexis, whose older brother, is also this top duelist that left the academy. Later they have some students from the American Academy show up, and people are starting to lose their energy as these American duelists are challenging people to shadow games, and they find out that Jaden's winged Karibo card is actually a spirit card and is the last piece to resurrect this evil soul that was contained by the Pharaoh's people back in ancient Egypt, because the Yu-Gi-Oh series has a lot of ties to, ancient Egypt, because whatever. So I liked that little bit of continuity from the original Yu-Gi-Oh series. But other than that, his other friends, Chaz and Bastion, really never grow into anything. They're just kind of there. The mythos is very weak and poorly explained, which is a bummer. A lot of the duels have cards that are not real. The big thing is the Elemental Heroes, which is in the real card game. So this is where the Elemental Heroes kind of come in, and a lot of polymerization. And the game has since developed past that if you play in real life. But it was kind of interesting to see just like where the game has grown from. So overall, I think the anime is just much more superior. You'll see some of the characters that show up in season 3 of the anime in here, but again, they are in a very separate, different plot line. I liked the idea of this being completely separate. Yugi, Pegasus, Joey Wheeler, those are all legends that Jaden and his friends look up to. But other than that, there's no real connection to the original series, other than, they're in the world. So this character right here is YuGiOh. This was a friend and mentor of Jaden's who was put into a coma, and is the reason that Jaden is dueling, and he has YuGiOh's Elemental Hero deck, and that is his inspiration to try to save YuGiOh, who was also dragged into the shadow game. Why these people were specifically targeted, not quite sure why he was kept in the shadow game. YuGiOh did originally have the winged Karibo that was needed, but there's no motivation to have students pass out other than that as their punishment. There wasn't too much going on in this manga. I think overall I gave the manga 2 stars. Stick to the anime. Next up, I actually went on a little bit of a memoir kick. So I waited until I finished all 3 of these to kind of do them into one video. So I actually understand now why some booktubers record as they read, because you don't have this mishmash. So first off, I read I Am C-3PO, the inside story by Anthony Daniels. Anthony Daniels, right here, is the actor that plays C-3PO. Right here in the Star Wars movies. So this is actually really interesting because Anthony Daniels was the only actor that has appeared in every single Star Wars movie. C-3PO is not in Solo, the Star Wars story, but Anthony Daniels plays a slave in that movie, so he has actually appeared in every single one. So Anthony Daniels is an actor from Britain. I don't think he's from London. I don't remember where specifically in Britain he's from, but he is from Britain. He's from England, and he was called to do this movie. He was a stage actor beforehand, which the movie became A New Hope, and he actually had a blast in it. Like, he was talking about how the suit was modeled, so he was actually in the suit for that one. When they called him back from the prequels, he was a puppeteer for C-3PO, and then for the sequel trilogy, he was back in a different suit. So I think what I really enjoyed about this was just his commentary on how the movie industry has changed and how making movies has changed. just because obviously all 3 trilogies were filmed at different points in time with such big spacings in between them, that he was able to comment on how he saw the movies being made and how they differed, and I thought that was a really interesting take. Anthony Daniels also was unfortunately treated pretty poorly, it seems, because he was in the suit that C-3PO got a lot of press, but the man inside the suit did not. Not surprisingly, he did not have a very good time on the set of the prequels. He said that he didn't really have the heart for them, and you could tell that they just weren't going to be as good movies. He adores the sequels, though, because he just said that JJ's passion and, you know, you could tell the time put into it and the love into the craft. So I would really highly recommend this to any Star Wars fan out there. It's, like I said, really cool. Not very long. I think I read this in 2 days, and I gave this 4.5 stars. Just because I'm really picky with 5 stars. At the end, it's just kind of like got a little bit repetitive, which is a little bit annoying. But other than that, Anthony Daniels' voice is really cool. He's like a nerdy fanboy himself. Like, I don't think he realizes he is actually a big star. People actually really do like him as well. But I really enjoyed reading this one. The next memoir that I read was Open Book by Jessica Simpson. This was supposed to be her big tell-all, and it really is. It's quite long. It took me a little bit longer than I thought to read it. I gave this one 4 stars. Jessica Simpson is a good little Christian girl, and she likes to remind you of that quite often. And that's where her roots are, is in her Southern Baptist church, where her dad was a pastor. And she would sing in the choir there, and, you know, she was just a good girl. She failed her audition to the Mickey Mouse Club to Christina Aguilera, Justin Timberlake, and Britney Spears, because she froze at her audition. And, you know, she would sing with Destiny's Child at a few different events, so she got to be friends with Beyonce, so that was kind of cool to see. And her comment on, you know, seeing these people before they were famous. Jessica did have a very tough life. There was talks about a sexual assault in here. There's obviously talks about her marriage with Nick Lachey of 98 Degrees. And then, you know, how she became a star, really, and she was really young, and talking about how her producer wanted her to have Janet Jackson abs, and they kept telling her how to lose weight, and all this other stuff. Jessica actually battled addiction with alcohol, which was interesting to read about. No, I really liked this book. I used to like to listen to Jessica Simpson's music back in the day, and it was pretty juicy. I mean, there's some juicy details in here, but she's just such a nice person that it wasn't like super juicy. But I would definitely recommend this for fans of her. Like I said, it didn't take me too long to read it. A couple days. It is thicker than I was expecting. But I think it was totally worth it, especially if you grew up in the 90s. You kind of know these events that she's referencing to. She managed to maintain her good girl image the entire time, though, and how the media helped portray this dumb blonde perspective of her, and how she was kind of manipulated by her producer from a young age to lose this weight. But mostly it was a very positive read, and I enjoyed it. The last memoir I read this month was Sorry Not Sorry by Naya Rivera, Santana on Glee. She very unfortunately passed away recently. The story about this was I literally put this on hold because I remembered that she had one and I hadn't read it. Like I said, I was going through this memoir kick, and I was like, oh, I'll just read Naya Rivera. So I put it on hold at the library, and like that day, later that day, or the next day or something, I saw the article that she had gone missing. And I was like, that's weird. And then the day that I got the notification that this was available for me to pick up at the library was the day that they announced that she passed. So I felt really sad and very uncomfortable reading parts of this. For the fact that she just recently passed away, there's a couple times that she references, oh, when I'm old, when I'm 85, when I have all these kids, and I was like, oh, that's depressing. But yes, Naya Rivera was on Glee. She was also on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. She did a couple stats on Family Matters, stuff like that. And that's what she talks about, as being young and being in Hollywood. Very different from Jessica Simpson's memoir. Naya Rivera did not have the same issues that Jessica Simpson faced, so it was interesting to read these two back to back. Naya goes through some financial issues like most young people do, with like an overspending thing and being in debt. Her time on Glee, she recounts. It's, again, not as juicy as I thought it'd be. I thought for sure she would go after Lea Michele in this, and she did not. And she actually specifically says she's not going to go after Lea Michele, despite their differences. She does talk a little bit about why they weren't friends, which was fun. This one's super short. I read it in like 2 sittings because it was so short. But I enjoyed this. I liked Naya's very straightforward attitude, and it's like she said, she's sorry, not sorry. So she made some mistakes. She battled some anorexia for a while, and like I said, her financial issues were the big thing, but she didn't really have that tough of a life. She discusses her parents' divorce, which was very candid, and like I said, I really liked it. I think if you're a Gleek, you should pick it up. If you liked Naya and want to celebrate her life and memory, I also really recommend it. So I know a lot of booktubers like give like live updates as they're reading a book, and I totally get it now. After having to record all those smaller videos of the library books, I'm like, I get it. That said, let us dive into this month's books that are not from the library. We're going to start off with James Patterson. I read 16th Seduction by James Patterson and Maxine Petro. This is the 16th book of the Women's Murder Club. I have said this before, and it still holds true. This book did not change my mind at all, that I am just out of love with this series. It follows Detective Lindsay Boxer. At this point, she is married and with a daughter. She is part of the San Francisco Police Department, and in the previous book, her husband, she found out, was doing some shady stuff on the side. Like, he had a secret job but she wasn't telling her about. He was working with this woman he had a history with that he didn't tell her about. Whoops. But that is all in the past in this book. They are fine. There was a bomb that happens and Joe gets really hurt. While on the scene, a man confesses to being the one who set the bomb. And then, of course, they go on trial. Yuki is the prosecutor, or part of the prosecuting team. She wasn't the lead prosecutor. I don't know how lawyers work. But then, of course, on the stand, the man tries to diminish Lindsay's credibility and say that she has no proof. Her and Cindy, who is another member of the Women's Murder Club, is a reporter. They get into an argument about Cindy using stuff that Lindsay tells her as a friend, and then Cindy reports on it. And Cindy said that she is a journalist and she will use whatever she can because she's a good journalist. It was kind of ridiculous and stupid. And I think I only gave it 2 stars. Like, they're really quick reads, luckily, but there's no heart in this series anymore. It just, like, they go through the motions. The majority of this book was the trial, and I don't know, I just wasn't here for it. Next up, I read The Medical Examiner, also by James Patterson, Maxine Petro. This is part of his Bookshots line. It doesn't actually, oh, here, like right on the bottom, it says Bookshots. So Bookshots was a line of books that James Patterson decided to come out with. They're only about 120 pages long, and they only cost about $5. Most of them were standalone stories, but he came out with 2 for his Alex Cross series and 2 for the Women's Murder Club. So this one comes in between 16 and 17, and with the title The Medical Examiner, I thought it'd be about Claire. It was not. Lindsay in this one, who's typically the main character, actually goes on a trip with her husband, because now that they're reconciled, they're going to try to save their marriage, or, you know, reconcile some more, I guess, on vacation. So Lindsay is actually not in this book at all. Instead, it's primarily Rich, who's her partner, and Cindy's husband, or fiance. So it does start off with Claire, who is the medical examiner, at a morgue. A body comes in, she tags it. It looks like a homicide, but then while in the drawer, the body wakes up, and the woman is actually alive, and they're trying to figure out who killed her, who is this mysterious man she was found in bed with, and all this other stuff. And it sounds like it'd be a very intriguing plot. It's only 120 pages, so it's a very concise, short mystery. I did like the twist at the end, mainly because the twist is we don't actually know who the killer is, which is refreshing, because he's not actually a suspect. It just boom out of nowhere. I didn't like the parts with Cindy in it. She's the reporter. I just don't like her as a character. And I would have liked it to be more Claire focused, because Claire, I think, is a very interesting
character. Instead, it was still rich. There wasn't much to this story because it was so short, but you know, it was just loads better than the 16th book was. So next up, I actually have The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. So the thing is that this is actually the first book I read this month, and it's the reason I didn't do a wrap-up at the end of June, because this book took me over 2 weeks to read, which is pretty pathetic given how it's not that long of a book, and it is a YA. So the thing is, people either really love this book and really hate this book, and I know there's just a lot of emotions with it. I'm actually on the fence. I didn't, like, love it, but I didn't hate it either. I was just bored with it. It's been a minute since I've read this, but it's about a girl named Blue. Her entire family is like some form of psychic, and they have this tradition of like going to the ley line and helping spirits cross over to the other side. However, Blue doesn't seem to have any sort of psychic abilities until she sees this ghost of a boy. Now, her whole life, Blue was told that she's going to end up killing her true love. Yes, the boy she kisses is going to be the boy that dies because that's like her true love kind of a thing. I think, I don't know, but of course, so she finally sees a soul, meaning this soul is going to be passing on later this year. And they decided, her aunt that she went with told her that that's probably her true love, or she's the one who kills him, like something along those lines. But Blue, of course, has this pact that she's never going to kiss a boy. So it's pretty much insta love when the Raven Boys, I don't even remember the guy's name anymore. His name is Gainsey. I don't know. He's obsessed with the ley lines of the town. There was some kind of mystery going on. I really forgot a lot of what happened. And there was kind of a love triangle happening, but not really. Stuff with ghosts were in there, psychic stuff. So it sounds like it should be really interesting. But I don't know if it was just the way it was written. It just didn't hold me, and I just wasn't into it at all. Like I said, it took me 2 weeks to get through it, and it's been, you know, a month since I've read it, and I really don't remember anything about it other than there was some boys that went to a prep school, and she hated them because she went to that prep school, but obviously was going to fall in love with them. This is a series. I don't know if I'm going to pick up book 2 yet. I did give this 3 stars because, like I said, it had some intriguing concepts, but I think I had enough of special, plain girl, and pretty boy. You know, there just wasn't, I didn't feel like the chemistry between the characters or any sort of heart or realism to the characters, and I think that's what really killed it for me. But I know a lot of people do have strong feelings about this one. I'm just not one of those people, unfortunately. So something a little bit different that I read this month is I read the first 2 books in the Shakespearean Star Wars series. So I read the Phantom of Menace and the Clone Army Attacketh. So I'll zoom in on that so you can see the covers a little bit better. This one has Jango Fett. This one has Queen Amidala in her Shakespearean best, Victorian best. These are by Ian Doescher. So I only read the first 2 so far because they are written in Shakespearean text. They are not very long, but they are brilliantly composed. Like, he put a lot of thought and a lot of effort in these books. He has the entire 9 out now. I just got 9. It came out Tuesday, so I had pre-ordered it, and it is here. As I'm reading the novelizations of Star Wars, I am trying to follow along with these. They do take some time to get through because they are written in pretty legitimate Shakespearean text. So it's not just like something you can sit down and read pretty leisurely. I really liked the thought that he put into it. Like, Jar Jar in particular has some really great soliloquies, which might surprise you, but he plays off of Jar Jar as the fool, not a fool. So, like, Jar Jar's actually really smart and is playing stupid to trick people, which I thought was interesting. R2-D2 has some monologues in there to show, like, in human text, not just beeps what he's thinking. There's author notes at the end of both of these that kind of explain his decision making and the choices that he made for each of the characters, like why some of them speak in prose and how some of them speak like specifically in mirrored kind of a text. So I thought that was really cool. The choices he made for Jango Fett's speech and Boba's speech was really interesting. And you can tell that Ian Doescher put a lot of thought into this and did a lot of research, and it's really fun for any Shakespeare fan out there. So I did get through this month the first 2, Phantom of Menace and the Clone Army Attacketh. So in that same vein, I am reading the Star Wars novelizations. So this month I read Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. This one, interpretations by Matthew Stover. Before Disney took over and said all of the canon novels were now legends, Matthew Stover made a trilogy, and this was actually book 2 in his trilogy. The next one was The Rise of Darth Vader, and I actually don't know what the one before this was, but I know it had something to do with General Grievous. But Matthew Stover... Oh, no, it is. The Rise of Darth Vader is the first one. No? Whatever, I'm just screwing everything up now. But this was a trilogy, and then this was his book 2 of his trilogy, so he did like an Anakin trilogy, and you can tell that he put a lot of thought into this book. I did give it 4 stars in the end instead of 5. The only one so far of the 3, because I've now finished the prequel trilogy of books, the only one that I gave 5 stars was actually episode 1, because it was just brilliantly done. So this one was definitely good. The romance aspect of Padme and Anakin was not as played up as it was in the second one. However, the bromance between Obi-Wan and Anakin was definitely a focus in this one, and I thought it was a very good choice, and it played out really well. The emotions of Anakin, I think, were really better explained in this one, and you can tell Matthew Stover is a big fan of Star Wars, and he treated the character of Anakin very well. There was definitely a moment that I felt like this was the moment that we lost Anakin to the dark side, where obviously it plays out in the movie, like I felt it in this one, and it was much more clear, like Obi-Wan literally pushed him into Palpatine's arms at this moment. This was the moment we lost him. So far I've really enjoyed reading these novelizations. This one was no exception. So if you're a Star Wars fan, I definitely suggest revisiting the series through the books. This one is decently sized, but it did not take me very long to get through just because it was so engaging. Changing gears a bit, I also read this month This Behemoth Lethal White by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling. We're not going to talk about her right now because I know people are kind of pissed at her right now, like, with reason, but we're not going to get into that controversy. We're just going to talk about this book. So this book is giant. However, it was one of the better ones. I really got into the series. The last book, the first 2 books were just kind of meh for me, but book 3 was really good, and this was no exception. Book 4, Lethal White, takes place right after book 3 at Robin's wedding to Matthew, and we know Robin and Matthew have some kind of tension because he actually deleted text messages from her phone. He does not like that she works for Detective Cormoran Strike, and that's kind of like the best part of this book was their relationship and their battling feelings for each other, and her tension with Matthew. It was like such a soap opera, and that's what I liked best about it. The detective part, I don't even remember anything of it. Oh yeah, this guy drunk, like, shows up drunk into their office and tries to tell him he saw this murder take place, and nobody really believes him. So the detective part was like good, but like I was more into the soap opera. Does Cormoran actually love Robin? Well, does Robin love Cormoran, or is it just professional feelings for her, friendly feelings? And watching all of that play out, the drama with Matthew was really fun to watch play out. So I really liked this book, and I'm actually really looking forward to book 5. Another book that I read this month that was more mystery-esque was Alice Isn't Dead by Joseph Fink. This is based off of the Alice Isn't Dead podcast. This is by one of the creators of Welcome to Night Vale. I have not listened to this podcast. I am a fan of their Welcome to Night Vale podcast. So I decided just to read the book. Apparently the podcast has a different ending, I guess. I don't know, but so the thing is, this is about Keisha. I don't remember her last name. Keisha Taylor is looking for her wife, Alice. Alice has gone missing, but Keisha knows Alice isn't dead. She sees Alice in the background of a crowd during a news report. So Keisha gets into her truck and travels across the country looking for her wife and finding clues. There were some really terrifying scenes with the Thistle Man, which is basically this gelatinous thing that kind of like eats people. And then as she's discovering this mystery, she finds out that the Thistle Man is actually a part of a Thistle Man community, and it's very terrifying. I really enjoyed it about the first 3/4 of the way through. The last chunk of this book was a little bit tedious at this point, Just like it was kind of like get to the point already kind of a thing. But I liked it. Like I said, I was kind of scared of it for a while. I definitely slept with a nightlight after a couple of the Thistleman scenes. It just got like after, maybe it wasn't even 3/4 of the way. It was a little bit over half though. Not quite. It was definitely a little bit over half. That I just kind of like, it just dragged on and I was over it. But the ending was good. I really think that if you like Night Vale, if you like the podcast, if you like Joseph Fink, just definitely give this one a try. Switching gears once more, I also read The Yellow Brick War. This is the third book in the Dorothy Must Die series by Danielle Page. So this originally was supposed to be a trilogy. However, before this book was published, she decided to make it a quartet. There's 4 books in the series now. But this book picks up right after the second book, The Wicked Will Rise, ends with Dorothy and Amy being put back into Kansas. The witches have followed, the Order of the Wicked have followed them there. And then Amy has a new mission. She must find Dorothy's original silver slippers that are hiding somewhere in Kansas. There's a lot of stuff with the Gnome King in this, gnome with an N, not with a G. Big difference. There is a big battle with Glinda, which was really fun. But again, I've kind of lost my love for this series. Like, this book was definitely way better than the second book was. But the pacing was really weird in it. Like, over half the book is just her in Kansas without any Ozian connections. It's just her reconnecting with her alcoholic mother that abandoned her when the tornado hit, that kind of stuff. And I just didn't care. There's a lot of threads that are left open, which is kind of concerning with there being only one more book. I feel like some of the threads should have been tied up in this one, leaving just the big battle for the last one. But there's like so much she has to cover and only one book left. So this one I gave 3.5 stars to. I still liked it, but like I said, I'm just not like in love with it like I once was. The first book is definitely still the best in the series. The prequels, even like there's 9 prequels, and I thought a lot of those were stronger than this one was. Just because there's such a colorful cast of characters and so many fun people she explored in the prequels that like where are they? So maybe they'll all show up for the final battle. But yeah, like I said, this is book 3, so we have one more to go, and we'll see if Dorothy dies in that one. We've almost reached the end, but next up I have Captivated by You. This is by Sylvia Day. It is the 4th book in the Crossfire series. This book was marketed for fans of 50 Shades of Grey, or people that were looking for a better version of 50 Shades of Grey. I have said before, and I will stand by it, that I liked 50 Shades of Grey for what it was. So I picked this up thinking it was going to be fun trash. And the 3rd book was awful. This book was even worse, I'd say. Once again, this Crossfire series was originally supposed to be a trilogy, and Sylvia Day ended up writing 5 books. 5. So it's decently sized book. I gave this only 2 stars, I think, because it made me laugh. It wasn't supposed to make you laugh, but it did. The plot is basically non-existent in here. Gideon and Ava have secretly gotten married, but they don't want to tell people that they're married, so instead they tell people they're engaged. They've only known each other for a few months, of course, and fuck it, they got married. They both have a lot of issues. Ava was molested as a kid. Gideon was raped by his therapist as a kid, and they don't talk about their issues. They just fuck a lot. A lot. And that's basically it. Like, Ava's ex-boyfriend is in a rock band and wrote a song about them and wants to use footage from their sex tape in his music video. And of course, Ava's like, no. And Gideon was like, no. And Brett was like, well, can I keep this sex tape? And they're both like, no. Like, that was basically it. 2 of Gideon's ex-girlfriends, consorts, whatever, threatened Ava. And Eva, maybe her name is. I always say Ava, it's EVA. They don't talk really about their issues. Gabriel, oh my gosh, Gideon. Gabriel's Inferno Part 2 is releasing tomorrow. I'm very excited for it. Gideon, during therapy, realizes that he is a manipulative bastard and like, that's it. He's like, yeah, I'm really manipulative, and then continues to manipulate Ava. But at least now he realizes what he's doing, I guess. That's character progression, you can say. Like I said, this whole plot of this is really stupid and ridiculous, and there's one more book. I might read it. I might end up quitting because I just don't care at this point. They're always fighting and breaking up and not talking about shit. At one point he told her, we can't have sex because if you say your safe word, I'm not gonna be able to stop. And she's like, that's okay. Like, that's not okay. No. It's not sexy. It's stupid. This book was dumb. And the final book of the week, or month. It's actually another library book, but I literally just finished it this morning, and it is I, Eliza Hamilton. It is by Susan Holloway Scott. So obviously, being a big fan of Hamilton, I read another Hamilton-themed book this month. I've been trying to read the literature on it. This one I also was really disappointed in. It's very thick. The focus is obviously on Alexander's wife, Eliza Elizabeth Schuyler, and it details how they met, and that was like a good almost 100 pages was before they got married, and I just was not here for it. It was really boring. The narration was just so clogged with historical facts that I was like, There was a scene where Alexander and Eliza steal their first kiss in the moonlight alone, and that's usually like my jam, but I was not into it in this one. I was just so bored. Eliza again comes off as really immature. Maybe she like was really immature, and Lin-Manuel Miranda just was the only one that portrayed her as a strong character. So I will admit I skipped a big chunk in the middle just because I was and I never took to it. It just wasn't this had phenomenal reviews on Goodreads, so I am in the minority of not enjoying it, but I don't read a lot of historical fiction either, and I don't think that it's really my thing now that I've failed at 2 of them, but maybe it's your thing. Give it a try. I only gave this 2 stars. Like, I don't like it. And that is it, fam. So this was long. I read a lot. I hope you read a lot too, and I hope you guys are staying safe. We just got word that we are starting back at school full time, so that's kind of really nerve-wracking, so we'll see how August goes as far as reading. I might be reading instead of feeling. So there's that. Alright, I hope this video finds you well, and I hope you have another month full of happiness and good books. See ya on the flip.